Last week in the SAC, Luers and Wayne at Wayne took our highlight zone game of the week. It was a fairly competitive game. This week, it doesn't get any easier for the Generals as they take on Dwenger. How do you see this game playing out, considering how Luers was able to beat them 31-14 last week in the Generals?
Well, you know, Kyle Beauchamp's doing a great job at Wayne. He's building the program, or continuing the building process that Larry Getz has started the last few years, and Wayne really played well against Luers. The week before against Northside, very undisciplined group Wayne was. Last week, very disciplined, did a great job. Having said that, they are not in the same league as Bishop Dwenger. Bishop Dwenger will win this game easy. I mean, think about this stat. Bishop Dwenger's defense is allowing 4.6 points per game. I mean, that's just stunning. And so Wayne is going to struggle to move the ball against that defense, especially with Jordan Patterson not passing the ball exceptionally well. He was passing it well earlier in the season, but last week he didn't have a good passing game at all. Wayne really relies on the running game, but Dwenger will snuff that out.
In this show, there's kind of a recurring theme as I looked over the games we were going to talk about. Not all these teams have played great opponents, because you mentioned the Dwenger stats. They played South Concordia, who's very down. South's obviously down to Northside, who maybe will finish in the middle of the SAC. Northrop, who's still kind of building, but down. And Harding, who's down. So, I mean, this is going to be the best team easily that they faced in Wayne.
Well, certainly Wayne will be the best team on their schedule, but it's all relative. Dwenger is so much better than everybody else in the SAC, like I said earlier, even better than Bishop Luers, in my opinion. It's not going to be a challenge. I look for Bishop Dwenger to score early and often, and they'll pull away, and they'll win this game without too much difficulty.
All right, I want to move to a conference we don't talk too much about, Huntington North's conference. They kind of go under the radar because they don't play teams from our area. They're kind of the only team in that conference from our area. They've got Marion, and right now Huntington North is in a fight for a conference championship despite a loss to Kokomo, which may ultimately cost them a conference championship. But they're in it right now, and Marion is too.
Well, they're one game back right now of Kokomo, but again, Kokomo is a little bit like Bishop Dwenger in the SAC. They're really head and shoulders above everybody else. They're undefeated in the league. They're one of the state's best teams. Although, I will say this, they were having a spectacular year last year, and Snyder just crushed them in the playoffs. So once Kokomo gets a taste of Fort Wayne football, it'll probably be a different story. Huntington North's problem this year is they really struggled offensively. They're only averaging 15 points a game, and it's difficult to win games when you're only scoring 15 points a game unless you have Bishop Dwenger's defense to go along with it. So they're going to have to figure out a way to score some points. They have dominated Marion in this series. They've won the last 5 in a row, but Marion has a I want to say third-year coach who's really done a good job in rebuilding that program, and so Marion's kind of rolling right now, won 3 games in a row. It'll be a difficult game for Huntington North.
And it's funny because Huntington North, if you saw the first half of the Homestead game early in the season, offense looked good. They got the tall 6'5" Fisher at quarterback. He's an athlete, good basketball player. Austin Shoemaker coming off a 1,000-yard season as a senior running back. They've been able to run the ball in the past and score points, but you're right, this year they've struggled with that.
Yeah, they're going to have to get better play out of their offensive line to create some running lanes for Shoemaker, but they just it seems like the wheels have fallen off a little bit in certain games, and so they're struggling a little bit, and they got to figure out a way to score points.
All right, big game for them at Marion. Switching now to the NHC, which has really been, I think, from the conference race, is easily the most interesting as far as this season has gone. New Haven, Columbia City. That game's in Columbia City. New Haven 5-0, Columbia City 4-1. Talk about what are going to be the biggest keys in this game for both sides of the football.
Well, if I would have told you in mid-August, hey, New Haven, Columbia City, that's going to determine the NHC champion, you would have thought I was insane, which you probably think I'm insane anyways. But, both teams are having spectacular years. Really, both teams do it differently, though. Obviously, New Haven with Tavon Hurst relies on the running game. Columbia City with Logan Rare at quarterback, they can throw the ball some. But Columbia City's got really good balance offensively. They can run the ball every bit as well as they can pass it. And they have big strike capability. So you would think that New Haven's going to dominate the time of possession by running the ball, and they probably will. But that might not come into play in this game because Columbia City can score so quickly with that offense that they'll be right in the game. And really, I look for Columbia City to knock off New Haven out of the unbeaten ranks because it's at home. It's a toss-up game, but it's at Columbia City. So I'll go with them.
Right. New Haven kind of struggled on the road last week. The Courtyard down in Norwell, always a tough place to play, regardless of how good the team is playing in the season. In Dwenger state of mind, as I mentioned, they hadn't played that many great teams. Is this another case for New Haven? They've got Heritage, Woodland, DeKalb, Carroll, and Norwell on the schedule. None of those teams are above 500 at this point, so they haven't played a team that has had the success perhaps that Columbia City has had.
Well, that's true. This is going to be one of their more difficult challenges, along with East Noble and Homestead. But New Haven cannot take a week off. And I know New Haven's coaching staff will tell you they didn't take a week off last week. The Norwell's really that good. But they took a week off last week. They only won by 2. They should have beaten Norwell by a lot more than that, given their record and how strong a season they're having. If they struggle this week like they did last week, they'll be down 14 points before they know what happened.
We're going to really see what New Haven's made of over the last 4 weeks. Columbia City, then Belmont, then East Noble, then Homestead. That's a pretty good, that's a pretty good run. Yeah, if you're in New Haven, that's going to be a challenge. Let's move on to the ACAC because this weekend's games all Saturday, all down in Muncie at Ball State. A couple games that catch your eye. Heritage versus Leo and Southern Wells versus Bluffton. With Heritage, they lost to Adams Central last week, but they're off to a 2-1 start in the ACAC, and Leo's 2-0. So this is a game that ultimately could be one of the deciding factors in who wins a conference championship.
Well, Heritage is breaking in a brand new head coach anyways, longtime assistant coach, but they're getting their feet under them right now. They did play Adams Central relatively tough last week, only lost by touchdown, had a 14-14 in the second half before Adams Central, who's having a spectacular year and doing a great job this year. Heritage got good quarterback play out of Connor Sheehan last week, and so they're kind of rolling right now. But having said that, Leo is much like Dwenger in the SAC. They're head and shoulders above everybody else in that league right now. They're undefeated in the league, and nobody can slow down Connor Kasser, especially when you get on the field turf at Ball State. Connor Kasser is going to run wild. He had over 240 yards last week. He'll do the same against Heritage this week.
And in Southern Wells, this recurring theme again, Southern Wells is 5-0, okay? Not to take anything away from them, but the best team they beat is Garrett. They also beat Westdale, Southwood, Wabash, and Fremont. Those teams combined are 0-20.
Right.
So you're talking about the combined record, and Garrett's a little bit down this year. The combined record of their opponents is 2-23 at this point in the season. Bluffton is better than every team that they've played, although they did suffer a loss last week. What do you have to do if you're Southern Wells to kind of make up for the fact that you haven't played anybody exceptional so far this year?
Well, that's true, but, I mean, Southern Wells has won 15 of their last 16 games. These kids are confident kids. They know what it takes to win, and Bluffton just got punched in the mouth last week by Garrett. You know, Garrett was having a struggling season this year, wasn't playing nearly as well as they should have, but they really gathered themselves last week and played well against Bluffton and beat Bluffton. And Bluffton shut down Todd Fricky, Garrett's star running back, but they had other guys step up and carry the load. So Southern Wells is going to end up winning this game. Yes, it'll be much more competitive than it has in years past. The Raiders have won 6 in a row in this series, but they're the second-ranked team in Class A. I know it's Class A, but Mark Lefevre is a great coach. He knows how to get his kids up. They're confident, like I said, because they always win, and I look for Southern Wells to win this game.
Is it a case of you don't score compare the Garrett game as much as you look at the body of work because you say, well, Bluffton's lost to Garrett. Well, Southern Wells has beaten Garrett. But the body of work, I would say, is more impressive at this point for Bluffton.
Oh, it's certainly because they played more difficult teams. But, you know, the thing is, every single week is a new game. And, you know, we can sit here, well, we do pick the games, and we're wrong half the time.
I was going to say, you pick them a lot better than I do.
But really, it doesn't matter to a degree what you've done in previous weeks. Bluffton's got to show up Saturday at Ball State and play well against Southern Wells. Southern Wells is going to have to do the same thing. They're going to have to minimize turnovers, take care of the ball, play good defense. I mean, really, so what you've done up to this point won't help you a whole lot Saturday afternoon at Ball State. But still, having said that, I believe in the Raiders. They've got a great program.
Yeah, they do. A big fullback right there, big 6 foot.
They grow them big
plus.
down there.
They grow them big, and they know how to block. That's the
yes,
one thing
do.
about Southern Wells. They do a good good job at that. Final question, anything to look for this week that we should be looking for as we are, halfway through the regular season, more than halfway, actually?
Well, at this point in time, you're going to start fine-tuning your offense and defenses because you're gearing up for the playoffs. They're going to be here before you know it. And the teams that are one game back in the conference races, and there's a lot of them. I mean, Adams Central, Bluffton, Heritage, and Garrett all have one defeat in the ACAC. If Leo stubs their toes, those one-loss teams have to be on their game so that they can maintain the pace. If they drop a game, they're out of the race. Columbia City, one game back. If they drop a game, they're out of the race. And so, it's really nitty-gritty time with a lot of those teams that are just one game out of first place right now, and they can't afford to take a step back.
Yeah, that's why I was going to say that Columbia City falls in that group. I think that's why that's such a big game this week, because if Columbia City loses, they're essentially out of the race, as tight as that is. And in New Haven, it's their biggest test of the season. Can they go 6-0?
Sure. I mean, and if New Haven can get this and East Noble keeps pace with them, it's just East Noble and New Haven battling it out. If Homestead stubs their toe and they would have a second loss in the league, then they're out of it for all intents and purposes. So there's just a lot of teams that are right there hanging in the balance, and you're going to determine, if you win, you're in the race, and if you don't, you're out of the race, and you better just look at the sectional.
All right. It is a scoreboard watching kind of week, at least from here on out as far as conference standings go. But for now, he's Tom Davis, I'm Glenn Marini, and we'll see you next week.